Hi and welcome back to the channel. So this is one of the videos that I'm doing on products that I've used during the build that I've found useful and thought it worth doing a review for other people. And the product I'm going to be reviewing today is this Hozelock high pressure pump, the Jet 3000 K7. So it's the numbering of that really is that it can move up to 3,000 litres of water per hour and at high pressure. And the reason that we went for that pump, we're in times of severe drought here in the UK. This is filmed early in August 2026. We don't have a hosepipe ban where we are at the moment, but certainly there could be one imminently, and we're being asked to try and conserve water. We're lucky that we have a small stream that runs along the bottom of the garden. Because we have to maintain the bank of that stream, we have what they call riparian rights, which means that we can pull up to 20,000 litres of water a day from that stream. No intentions of doing that much, but in the garden here, now we've finished most of the build, we're planting lots of new plants on an embankment area, and we're going to be returfing the front garden, which I think is a couple of 100 square metres. So we'll obviously need to be able to water that in the future. So being able to use the water from the stream at the bottom of the garden is, obviously saving money on paying for using water from the house for that, but also trying to preserve. We shouldn't be using water for excessive use, but we've spent a lot of time growing the plants. We don't want to lose those. And as far as the stream that we're on, we're only a mile from the sea, so it's not that there isn't anything really downstream from us for the tiny amount that we're taking out that's going to be an issue. So this pump that I've bought can be used to take water from the stream. Also, if you've got large water butts, it's a perfect way there of giving you high pressure water around the garden to be able to operate a sprinkler or a spray hose. And when I started looking into this, there's the obvious pump that comes up when you just look for a water pump is a submersible pump, and these ones you might have seen that you'd use to clear foundation footings if they get full of water. It's a pump that you lower down into the dirty water. It has quite a wide diameter hose, and it can lift and push that water out of the hole, but it doesn't give you enough pressure. So this pump's actually 3,000 litres of water an hour potential, but 3.5 bar, so quite high pressure, actually a higher pressure than we've got in the house. So it can actually, when I run it on a sprinkler, as we'll show later, actually give a broader spray than if I actually connected the hose to the house. So let's have a quick look at the specs for this pump and see if it might be suitable for you. As I say, it's 3,000 litres an hour, and on the box here they give you a warning of the sort of limitations that you have and the distance. So you can see here on the length of the hose how much that pressure is going to drop. So if you've got a hose that's 30 metres long, you're not going to get 3,000 litres an hour, you're going to get 1,000 litres an hour because of all of the energy that's required to move that water. And also there's a limit on the drop that you can have, so it comes with a maximum of 7 metres being able to lift the water up from the stream. Now ours is only 2 metres or so, I would say, down to the stream, so that's perfectly good for us. And they inform you here how much that's going to drop off if you have a longer hose length. We'll have a look at what comes in the box. It's a pretty simple machine, so we'll go out and have a look at that in just a moment. And I'll talk through setting it up and look at how well the pump operates. Price wise, I got this for it was just under £150 in the UK. It varies, I couldn't find it much cheaper, it varies £10 or £20. So it's a reasonable investment. Obviously don't leave it out in the winter. If it freezes, it's going to get damaged, but it can stay outside as long as it's reasonably protected through the summer months. But let's crack on and see how this thing works. So let's take a look at what comes in the box. So you've got the pump, it's all a plastic casing on it. Fairly short, metre-and-a-half power cable. The inlet hose, so I think that's 7 metres long. It takes a while to prime when you first use it. I think there's a coarse filter on this one, and I think that's got a non-return valve, so this feels a lot heavier now I've been using it, and it's full of water. So it's about 7 metres. I've got about a 2 metre drop over the wall here. When you first get it, they give you a tool to open up the filter. So this is a built-in filter. I believe if you've got very muddy water, you can get an external secondary filter to add on to this. And this has been running a few weeks. You can see it's a little bit green, so that's obviously going to need cleaning periodically. So when you first get it, you need to prime the pump. So get a watering can, I have to fill from both these holes, so taking the outlet off, and this one, fill that with water so that the pump operates, and then it will pull the water through, no problem at all. Just tighten that down. And it has a choice of how you connect. So this fitting on the top here when you first get it is this long. So you have a choice of, it comes with this larger connector. The problem I had with this was this needs something like a 20mm hose. I've only got a 15mm one. I couldn't get the hose to go over that. But that's just like a much larger version of your normal hose fitting. Or you then have a choice that you can cut it off at the back here, and that's then a 1-inch British Standard thread, and buy a hose fitting of that size. Or you can cut it off slightly further forward, push a larger hose over it and fit it with a hose clip. So just be aware that you might need to buy an additional fitting if you've got a standard garden hose like I do. So we put that on there. We'll lower the water hose down over the wall. I'll take a picture of the stream just so that you can see that. So you can see this is the stream that we got in the garden. I'll say we're early August. It's still flowing at quite a reasonable rate there. And where I'm dropping the hose over the wall further up, it's about a 3-metre drop, and then I've got about 1.5 foot of water in the bottom. So this has only got about another 200 metres before it reaches the river, and then about a mile down the stream and straight into the sea. So you know, what we're taking out is not detrimental to anybody else further downstream, and we are allowed to take up to I believe 20,000 litres a day. We're probably doing 1,000 or 2,000 at max, I would imagine. And we've got even with the drought that we have at the moment, I've got something like 1.5 foot of water in that stream. So that will drop down there. So I'm just going to connect this to the power without a hose on it initially, just so that you can see the sort of level of water that we have coming out of that hose fitting. It'll take a couple of seconds to prime. So you can see it's a really quite a high rate of water that we're getting out there. More than enough to do a sprinkler or a hose. Very impressive indeed. So I just connect that to a standard garden hose. And we're controlling that where we've got the extension lead plugged in the house. I'm going to put permanent power down the garden here at some point in the future. So let's just have a quick look at what the performance of this thing is like. This is the embankment that we're planting up. So we've got a lot of phormiums and other plants in here, cordyline that grow quite tall. So we've grown all of these actually from cuttings over the last couple of years while we've been building, but some of the plants are quite small, so we're needing to water this regularly, and that's taking 40 minutes or so a day to do all of that thoroughly enough, and doing that using water from the house we worked at was probably £1.50 or something a day, so it racks up quite quickly over the summer with the amount of water that you're going to use. The rest of the garden on the inside here is mostly going to be gravel. We're hoping to get that done in the next couple of weeks, but the front garden we've got quite a large area which is needs levelling up and returfing, so we don't want to have the ability to have a sprinkler on that in the future. Let's have a quick look at the actual performance then of this pump. So I've got a standard Gardena plastic bodied sprinkler here. We're actually watering this with a hose pipe, but just to show you the sort of pressure that we've got when we're operating the pump. So hopefully you can see that there's enough pressure in that pump to quite easily cover that distance of 3 or 4 meters, I would say, probably a little bit further across the garden, so more than enough more than enough pressure to operate a sprinkler on the lawn. Really quite impressed with the performance of the pressure on that, and I've got that on quite a long hose. That's probably a 40-metre hose that we're connected to, as well as that 3-metre drop off the wall down to the water. So we'll have a look now. I've got a standard hose fitting on here, and you can see, really good pressure. So, if you've got water butts with a reasonable amount of storage in the garden and you want to be able to use a hose, this is a very good solution for that. I think there's a smaller submersible one as well, but really impressed with the sort of water pressure that we get from this setup, and how we can water all of this effectively for free once we've paid off the cost of the pump. So I hope that's given you a reasonable view of the performance of this Hozelock pump. So is this Hozelock pump for you? So I said at the beginning you could use this with access to a water course like we have, or with a water butt. I think looking at the amount that this thing is able to pump, if you've got a typical UK water butt, maybe 200 litres, it's probably going to empty that in 5 or 6 minutes. So possibly less practical for that. There are some cheaper pumps that you can get that I think can be submersed in the water butt that will give you enough to operate a hose, but certainly not with the pressure to do something like a sprinkler, and you're going to have multiple water butts to be able to do it. So great product, but you need access to enough water to be able to pump to make a difference. If you do have access to a water source like we do, it's a fantastic looking solution. It's going to save us a great deal on the garden. And obviously we're not taking a scarce resource of using the domestic water facilities at a time of a drought, even when there isn't actually a hosepipe ban in place for us yet. I hope you found that useful. If you haven't already, then please click like and subscribe. If you've got comments and feedback, I'd love to hear from you. Please take a look at some of my other videos on some of the tools and techniques and things that I've come to recommend while we've been doing our self-build here in Dorset. Thanks again for your time.